In this video, I'm going to show you how you can hack your focus to make studying so fast that it literally feels illegal. I'm going to give you 3 steps, 3 actionable steps that you can literally implement in your next study session. And I guarantee you by the end of this video, you will be so productive in your next study session and learn so much faster than all of your classmates. If you're anything like me, you want to study less and get higher grades so that you can actually spend time with the people that you love. You can make new friends, balance your social life, enjoy so many other cool hobbies that you would have otherwise sacrificed if you were studying like 10 to 12 hours a day. For those who don't know me, my name is Matthew. I got 3 stars and 1A in my A-level exams. I graduated as valedictorian and I'm currently studying at the University of Hong Kong, studying financial technology with a minor in computer science. So the first thing you need to understand is the deep work state. The main problem is that most people can't actually get into this deep work state. I want you to do a little thought experiment. The next time you go into your local school library or your university library, go and just take a look at what other students around you are doing. Most of these people are not even fully focused. They're not in this deep work state. And I guarantee you, these are the guys who are in the library chugging 12 cans of Red Bulls a day and spending like their entire life inside the library studying and just being extremely inefficient with their time. I don't want you to be one of those students. I want you to be the student who actually can focus and perform at a high level. Most people do not know this, but it actually takes around 15 minutes to get into this deep work state. That's why I have time on the x-axis. But most people don't even make it this far. Most people terminate the wind-up time by like looking at their phone or something, right? It's really interesting because if you go into the library, you can see people study for a little bit. After like 10 to 15 minutes, they'll immediately look at their phone. They'll check some random social media notification. And because of that, they're not able to get into this 15-minute deep work state. They have to start all the way down here again. Another time, they try to start studying and okay, maybe they focus for 10 minutes. But at the 10-minute mark, they randomly decide to walk up and go to the bathroom. That's tough because now they have to start all over again to enter this deep work state. And because of that, they keep rising and falling and they keep starting all over again at like rock bottom. Do you see why they're not actually able to focus? It's because they're constantly distracted. These red things are distractions. You need to get rid of these distractions if you truly want to get into this deep work state. The first thing that you need to understand is that you need at least 15 minutes to get into deep work state. But the problem is, the more times you get distracted, you are literally training your brain. You're training your own brain to be distracted. And the more you train your brain to be distracted, the longer time it would probably take for you to actually get into this deep work state. Maybe if you have a really terrible attention span, it might take you 30 minutes to get into this deep work state. When I was in year 10, my attention span was absolutely terrible. I was addicted to so many things. Like I would play video games, I would scroll on social media like basically every like 30 minutes. And my attention span was just absolutely trash. Because of that, it would take me so long to get into this deep work state. But over time, the more I've trained myself not to be distracted by these things, the more times I was actually able to enter this deep work state and actually become productive. And I can say confidently right now, I've trained myself and I've trained my brain to a level where I can just sit down, focus for maybe 15 minutes, and then I could get into the flow state and get so much done in like 2 hours. Imagine how it would feel, right? You sit down and like you can literally focus for 2 hours straight with no distractions. If you're a university student like me, go study somewhere where people will not disturb you. Around 2 days ago, I actually made the decision to go study at a cafe instead of campus or in my room. And let me tell you, those 3 to 4 hours were some of the most productive hours of my entire life because there was literally nothing that could distract me in those 4 hours. So now that you actually know how to enter deep work and the fact that these distractions are actually killing your productivity over time, the next thing you need to understand is how you can optimize your health to make this basically much more easy. So I want you to pay attention to this diagram over here. On the x-axis, we have sleep, the amount of sleep you get. And on the y-axis, we have the amount of focus that you have. Sleep and focus literally have a one-to-one direct cause and effect relationship. Like the correlation is basically perfect. You've probably had one of those nights where you didn't get enough sleep, right? You didn't get enough sleep. And because you didn't get enough sleep, in the morning you woke up and you decided you're going to study, but you just couldn't. When you sit down, you try to actually open your notebook and you try to do some questions, you literally can't because your brain feels weighed down. Brain fog. This is the condition that I always used to struggle with. And I would think to myself, why am I not actually able to focus? Why am I actually just not able to be productive? Like I actually want to sit down and study. Like motivation wasn't a problem, but I was weighed down by something called brain fog. And it was not until I actually fixed my sleep, until I was actually able to erase this brain fog and actually be able to focus. And you know what the scary part is? Studies show that if you sleep just 4 to 5 hours a day, it literally cuts the amount of stuff that you remember by 40%. Like this is not even related to focus anymore. It's about how much information you actually remember when you study. So for example, let's say you studied 8 hours and let's assume for simplicity's sake that you actually studied hard and you actually was able to enter deep work state for like those 8 hours. If you make the trade-off and decided you want to sleep late and you sleep only 4 to 5 hours, guess what? You're only going to remember 4 to 5 hours of the 8 hours that you studied. Is that a good trade-off? I don't really think so. So sleep is such an important tool because it actually helps you to consolidate and help you remember the information that you actually put and learn inside your brain. The next thing I need you to pay attention to is diet. Diet is so important, and so many study YouTubers online, they would talk about, oh, what the best study method is. Oh, you need to use the Pomodoro technique instead of the Pomodoro technique and all that other bullshit. I'm not saying those tips are bad, but they're missing the main point. Most students' diets are so bad that they're actually not able to focus because the diet is full of so much crap. So for example, I used to be addicted to McDonald's. You're probably guilty of this, aren't you? Maybe some of you are. If you don't eat McDonald's, it's great. But just same as with McDonald's, like those, you know what I mean? Like the fast food companies and stuff. The fast food companies, bro, they put shit in their food. These companies, these disgusting companies, will literally hire billions and billions of dollars just to help to find like the optimal crunch when you bite down into that potato chip. That shit is not meant to be eaten. Like, forgive me for my language, but a lot of the fast food and processed stuff is not meant to be eaten. Instead, as students, if we want to actually maximize our focus, we need to be fueling our brain with the right foods. So imagine you have a car, right? You have a really nice car that can go at like 180 kilometers per hour. Imagine you fuel this car with some shit like vegetable oil, right? If you fuel this car with vegetable oil, it's probably gonna break down and it will max speed. It's probably gonna be 20 kilometers an hour. Your brain works in the exact same way. So instead of eating all this processed stuff from these disgusting food companies, eat actual whole foods that are not processed. For example, eggs. Eggs are such a good tool, such a good and delicious food. Like just making scrambled eggs for breakfast, honestly, it tastes really good. I enjoy them so much. So eggs is one of them. Like a nice piece of grilled chicken, like grilled with like butter and not of like this disgusting vegetable oils. You probably know what I'm talking about. Just don't eat these disgusting processed foods. Like obviously don't be like so scared of just eating out in general, because the reality is like you're gonna have to eat food anyways, and most food is probably not gonna be like the perfect diet or something. But if you just remove all of these processed shit like McDonald's, KFC, Jollibees, Taco Bell, if you just remove those, your brain will literally thank you. By the way, if you enjoy content like this and you want more personalized help and mentorship from me, you can check out the first link in the description below. We've already had many students join. We've already seen some pretty crazy results, and you can literally be the next one. The amount of stuff that I cover inside that program is pretty insane, and it contains basically all of the advice that I give inside these videos, plus even more personalized stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, and if you think that it will help you get better grades, which it will absolutely do that, then you can check out the first link in the description below. So the last thing you need to understand are intrusive thoughts. So I want to share you a little bit of a personal experience of mine. Around 4 days ago, I was sitting down in the library and I basically had everything perfect. I had enough sleep. I was caffeinated. I already did my morning routine and stuff. Like I was already well dressed and I was sitting down in a very quiet and peaceful environment. But the problem was that my inner self, my mind, was not at peace. Sure, my external conditions were fine. There was no one talking around me and actually be able to focus, but my mind was speaking loudly. And because of that, I was actually not able to focus. I was constantly thinking about this event that happened like 2 days ago. Let's say that I wanted to get something. I want to get something from someone, but I failed and I was actually not able to do that. And I was feeling even slightly depressed. And I was feeling so neurotic in that moment. And I would just try to sit down and study and focus on actually studying instead. But I just couldn't. I literally couldn't. Because even though my surroundings are quiet, my mind was noisy. Because I was having intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts come in many shapes and sizes. Perhaps it's something that has bothered you in the past. For example, there was like a past event of something that happened to you and you're just very, very unhappy about. So maybe it's not that your sleep is bad or you're constantly distracted. Maybe you've already removed all of those things. Maybe you're already pretty advanced compared to all of the other students around you. But I guarantee you, if you still can't focus, if you're at that level already, it's because you have intrusive thoughts. And the way to cure these intrusive thoughts is to completely detach yourself away from them. So this is your mind, right? Randomly, it would start to think about a thought. A thought will just float into your mind. It doesn't matter where you are, there are always going to be thoughts streaming through your mind like a river. I call this the stream of consciousness. Right? There are always going to be millions of thoughts that flood through your brain at a given moment. And the problem is, when the mind starts to think about this thought, it might think another thought, which may lead to another thought, which might lead to another thought. And it would just keep going down in this cycle until it spins out of control. What's really insidious is that your mind loves to thrive on negative thoughts. So maybe this thought is like, oh, your brain will suggest you this thought and it would be like, do you remember what actually happened 4 days ago? And then when you actually consent to this thought, your mind will then start replaying the events over and over again in your head. And because of that, I would not be able to focus for more than 5 minutes and get into that deep flow state. So the solution is to cut these thoughts off the moment you get them. You don't have to actually listen to your thoughts. You can just look at the thought and say, oh, well, I'm just thinking this thought. I don't want to think this thought. I'm just going to let it go. So there are 3 things that have actually helped me to detach myself from my intrusive thoughts. So number 1 is stop and let it go. This is an amazing mantra that you can repeat to yourself when you start to get distracted by something that has happened in the past. For example, let's say that you got a really bad test score and you're thinking about it, even though it's happened like 5, maybe even a year in the past. You start thinking about that and it distracts you from your study. You need to cut the thought at the beginning. So you just say, stop and let it go. Stop and let it go. Just detach yourself from the thought because it's in the past. You can't change what's in the past. Just say, stop and let it go. The second one I really like to use is, do I care? Let's say you have had a really awkward social interaction with a girl like 2 weeks ago, and then you fumbled and you basically like, she's not interested in you because you said some weird shit. You know, stuff like that happens, right? So your mind is probably going to replay that event over and over again when you're trying to study. So you just got to say, look, do I even care? And chances are it's probably been a week or 2 weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even a year, but your mind is actually still thinking about it. Just say to yourself, do I even care? And chances are you probably don't even care anymore. It's past. It's past. You don't even have to care about it anymore. So that's number 2. Number 3 is what's done is done. Very, very simple. If you start regretting an action that you took, just say to yourself, what's done is done. Because you could either frame your failures as some sort of stumbling block and make it your entire identity and think to yourself, oh, I'm a failure because X, Y, Z happened. Or you could frame it in a way where it's like, it is what it is. Like what's done is done. I cannot change it anymore. When you make that mindset shift, it's not like you fail. It's more like you win or you learn. Because instead of failing, you're now learning. You're learning from your past experiences. Learning is just simply correcting your mistakes. That's how learning works. Now that you've been through the experience, you don't have to despair on it anymore because you know that you don't have to do this again. So for example, if you were talking to a girl and you were too desperate and you knew that, you could either start thinking about that and make that your whole identity. Like, oh, I'm such a bad, like I have such a bad riz. Oh, I'm bad at talking to girls. Or you could frame it in a way where it's like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have done that. The next time I talk to a girl, I will not say X, Y, Z. And I will not act in a XYZ way. If you frame your mistakes in a way that's actually positive, you can grow a lot from them. That's why the most successful people are not the ones who have been the most successful in the past, but they're the ones who have actually failed the most. You can look at all the top entrepreneurs, like for example, Alex Hormozi. He has probably failed so many more times than you or me. So what I'm trying to say is that you can frame your failures into successes. So that's the 3 methods that I use to counter intrusive thoughts. One thing that also helps a lot is to grab a physical journal and just start journaling all of your thoughts down. Like if you externalize your thoughts, you'll start to see that a lot of them are coming from a place of despair. And once you actually see that for yourself, you realize like, oh shit, like these thoughts are actually not me. These are not me. You know, like I don't have to associate my identity with these thoughts. By the way, again, if you want more information like this, if you found all of this stuff useful and you really like the way I teach and you like my advice, then you can check the first link in the description below. We've already seen some pretty crazy results in our community and more students are joining. So you can click the first link in the description below and I'll probably see you inside. But as always, may God guide us in the right path and I'll see you in the next video.